Welcome back to Systems Thinking Analysis of Orangewood Christian School. This is part 3. Where we left off in part 2, we had just done an overview of organizational systems and why they matter to Orangewood. So let's begin by looking at our first theory. And a theory becomes a system once it is applied. Resource dependence theory. Resource dependence theory considers an institution's external environment and how organizations depend on the environment for resources. So how does resource dependence theory apply to OCS? First, let's examine material resources. OCS is dependent on its environment for resources such as financial capital, faculty and staff, and facilities and curriculum. OCS raises financial capital through tuition and fundraising events such as the yearly OCS Gala and campaigns such as the Annual Fund. OCS recruits faculty and staff through online postings and referrals/recruitments from current faculty and staff. OCS uses its financial capital to build and maintain its facilities as well as maintain current curriculum. Second, let's look at information. OCS is dependent on its environment for information such as educational trends and school marketing. OCS relies on its faculty to spot emerging trends in education. OCS's directors of marketing and development are responsible for determining how to present the school to the public. Social and political supports. OCS is dependent on its environment for social and political supports such as parental involvement and community support. OCS's Parent-Teacher Fellowship exists to serve the needs of the school community. In addition, OCS has built effective relationships with Maitland City Hall and the greater Maitland community. So let's look at population ecology theory next. Population ecology theory contends that organizations succeed as a result of natural selection within the organizational field, with the environment seeking organizations that fill a need. How does population ecology theory apply to OCS? First, let's look at variation. What sets Orangewood Christian School apart from its competitors? The Orlando market has many competitive private schools, ranging from religiously affiliated schools like Orangewood to secular preparatory schools. OCS aspires to offer an academically rigorous college preparatory education at a price point that local families can afford. And OCS's Christian identity sets it apart from secular private schools in the area. Let's consider selection. What inspires parents to choose OCS over its competitors? In such a rich market, what factors influence a family's decision to choose Orangewood? OCS offers a community in which teachers genuinely care about their students. Student polls have shown that students feel that OCS is a special place in which they experience grace and love. Third, let's look at retention. What can OCS do to retain both its students and its faculty? To retain faculty, OCS can ensure that teaching schedules are reasonable with manageable student loads. In addition, OCS leadership should find ways to meaningfully demonstrate support and appreciation for the teaching faculty. To retain students, OCS can ensure that students are properly placed in their academic schedules and are provided with an appropriate amount of support. OCS can also work to create an enjoyable working condition in which teachers are respected and students are respectful. Our next organizational systems theory is institutional theory, which asserts that organizations must conform to the rules and norms that prevail in their environment and resolve uncertainty by imitating what appears to be prevalent and appropriate. How does institutional theory apply to OCS? First, let's examine industrial tradition. How does OCS observe educational traditions? Well, OCS offers a traditional classroom setting and standard course offerings to its students. And the majority of OCS faculty receive their teaching credentials in traditional accredited teacher education programs. Social political beliefs. How do OCS's beliefs influence its practice? OCS's belief influence its practice by necessity. The OCS mission statement states that the mission of Orangewood Christian School is to equip students to transform the world for Christ and His kingdom. The teaching practice at OCS has a distinct spiritual emphasis. Legislation. How do current educational-related legislation impact OCS's work? As a private school, OCS is not subject to the same education-related legislation as public schools. However, OCS is subject to the accreditation standards and policies of Christian Schools of Florida, or CSF. OCS leadership prepares responses to pressing issues in education, such as Common Core. The final organizational system that we're going to examine is agency theory. Agency theory refers to the relationship that develops in an economic exchange when an individual, the principal, concedes authority to another, the agent, to act in his or her name so that the wealth of the principal is benefited by decisions adopted by the agent. How does agency theory apply to OCS? First, through the relationship between principal and agent. How does OCS structure its leadership? Currently, OCS is led using a top-down management style. There's a clear hierarchy of leaders, however, communication between the levels can be spotty, and many OCS leaders are unavailable day to day. Second, there's the internal mechanisms. How does OCS's leadership relationship with the faculty affect the school? Some OCS leaders are known for having favorites. Many faculty members only hear from OCS leaders when they are perceived to have done something wrong. In past years, faculty members have been faced with absentee leaders. Next, external mechanisms. How do community and parental relationships influence the school? OCS's relationship with the Mainland community directly impacts its ability to improve its facilities. And parental word of mouth is essential to the continued growth of the student body. The OCS school board is made up of OCS parents and has a direct influence on school policies. Let's summarize organizational systems theory and how they relate to Orangewood. How are organizational systems implemented at Orangewood? Well, resource dependence. OCS has strong development and marketing departments which have allowed for a steady flow of financial and volunteer resources. Successful fundraising events such as the OCS Gala and Silent Auction have proved reliable fundraisers. The annual fund campaign is making strides in raising financial capital for its facility improvement. OCS leadership should consider beginning a professional development fund to sponsor subject-specific professional development opportunities for its teachers. Our second theory, population ecology. OCS is currently rediscovering its identity as a Christian school and is taking steps to integrate faith and learning in a more distinctive manner. The professional development emphasis for this school year has been fostering meaningful faith and learning connections. OCS leadership needs to be in agreement as to what the role of faith should be in the school setting. Our third theory, institutional theory. As part of its philosophical realignment, OCS is working to improve the rigor of its educational offerings by blending traditional pedagogy with contemporary teaching tools. OCS leaders should pursue credentials for their positions. All principals should have studied educational leadership and have had relevant classroom experience. And OCS infrastructure needs to adapt to the technology requirements. Our fourth theory, agency theory. While OCS has a well-defined hierarchy of principals and agents, a middle level of leadership is necessary to provide faculty with greater representation. OCS leaders should be willing to hear from the people directly affected by administrative decisions, and teachers should have a say in the decision-making process. As we continue our discussion on systems thinking and how it relates to Orangewood, we've looked at personal systems, things like systems thinking, personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, and team learning. We've examined organizational theories, such as resource dependence theory, population ecology theory, institutional theory, and agency theory. Now, as we move into this next portion of this analysis, we're going to examine management functions. What are the 4 functions of management? They are planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. And how do these 4 functions of management apply to OCS? Well, the PLOG functions must work together in order to ensure effective organizational oversight. The Saylor Foundation describes the 4 functions of management as the activities that plan, organize, and control the operations of basic elements of people, materials, machines, methods, money, and markets, providing direction and coordination, and giving leadership to human efforts so as to achieve the sought objectives of the enterprise. Let us consider planning. Planning provides guidance for employees and can be defined as setting goals and creating the blueprint to meet those goals. So how can OCS address planning? Leadership. Implement new initiatives using a structured timeline. Changes to school policies should be announced in a timely manner with clear expectations given. Selected initiatives should first be piloted prior to organization-wide implementation. Faculty. Teach students how to make reasonable project plans. When assigning projects, provide intermediate deadlines and demonstrate how to prepare a project over time. In the case of group projects, have groups draft a project plan that all must agree to follow. Students. Collaborate with students to develop graduation plans. Entering 9th grade students should be required to begin planning for graduation. Students should have a clear idea about what they will need to accomplish to be successful following graduation. Parents. Schedule family events for dates compatible with the school calendar. Family vacations should be planned for school breaks. Students who are absent for long spans during the school year typically struggle to make up missing assignments and fill learning gaps. Our next management function is leading. Leaders specialize in motivating and influencing subordinates toward objectives. How can OCS address leading? Leadership. Motivate OCS faculty through encouragement and appreciation. OCS leaders should find meaningful ways to express appreciation to the faculty. In addition, OCS leaders should provide specific personal encouragement to their subordinates. Faculty. Develop strategies for influencing unmotivated students. OCS faculty should develop strategies designed to spark motivation in underperforming students. And OCS faculty should find ways to encourage students who are facing challenging circumstances. Students. Empower students to access their intrinsic motivation. Students need to become aware of their personal motivations and learn to keep themselves motivated. In order to become successful adults, students must learn to become intrinsically motivated. Parents. Provide a balance between intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. Parents frequently overly rely upon extrinsic motivators while neglecting the development of intrinsic motivation. And parents should limit extrinsic motivators when possible and find intrinsic alternatives. When we pick up in part 4 of this presentation, we'll examine the remaining functions of leadership as well as begin to look at some overall recommendations for the organization.